Rugby with Huw Griffin.
Welcome back to the Huw Griffin on Rugby Podcast. You was away last week, so I missed it, and I'm sorry that I missed it, but I'm sort of glad that I missed it because I was sick as a dog last week. Unfortunately, I'm still as sick as a dog. So anyway, welcome. Good to see you again, Huw.
Good to see you as well again, mate. Yeah, I was away in Cyprus of all places last week, but I came back with a bit of a cold as well, so I was sick in sympathy.
Oh, is it? That's your story and you're sticking to it.
Absolutely.
Interesting thing tonight that I noticed is I'm all padded up here. I look like an Eskimo, and you're wearing short sleeves there, is it? Yeah. What's that,
Short
jersey?
sleeves, shorts, yeah. Oh my goodness. It's tomorrow it's going to be 29 degrees Celsius in the UK, and that is unbelievably hot for us. Our houses are not built for that. We are sweating, it's difficult to sleep. All our houses are all about insulation, keeping the heat in, which means when it's actually hot, oh my goodness, it's difficult. But I'm sure you guys would come down here and be like, oh, it's fine. So
Yeah. I was about to say we've got the opposite problem. Ours are not built to retain heat. The exact opposite. So when it's cold like that, this is why I padded up like this. It's cold, man, and we're not used to the cold. I don't like it at all. Anyway, let's get back to your jersey. Typically we talk about that. What is that jersey?
this is an Argentina Polo shirt. So I don't think this is official Argentina merch. This is again from Rugby Store UK. This would have been one that I would have picked up in and around the 2023 World Cup. And yeah, so I don't think this is the official Los Pumas logo. It's got 1910 underneath it, which I assume is when Argentinian rugby started. And yeah, I like it. It's one of my more wearable ones that you can wear to anything. You know, some rugby jerseys that you can only really wear around the house or to rugby matches, whereas this you can wear anywhere. I also did a video about Argentinian rugby on my channel
Hmm.
this week, and it's gotten a really good reception. And so obviously Argentinian rugby fans who speak English, bless them, are here on the internet looking for content about their team. So gracias, I think they say in Argentina, is
Yeah,
thank you.
they do.
So thank you to all those people, and people can check out my video on the HG Rugby channel if they want to.
I'm going to put that link up here. People can link it. I'm also going to put it in the description down below. We've got quite a few Argentinian fans on this channel as well. Spanish-speaking fans as well. So in Argentina, I suppose it's everybody's second favorite team, I say, internationally speaking, as far as I know. Everybody I know, we support the Argentina second after whatever team we support at the moment. Just on that subject, before we get to the main topic of tonight, there's a reason why you're wearing that jersey, you know, and it's something that we're not really tuned into in South Africa. But the Lions are playing Argentina this weekend, this Friday in Dublin, as a sort of a warm-up match. What's the story behind that?
Yeah, so the Lions tour officially starts on Friday, this Friday, the 20th, in Dublin. So it's not really on tour yet, against Argentina. So they started doing this. They played Argentina in 2005 before they went to New Zealand. I don't think they played a home game in 2013 or 2009, but in 2021, they played Japan in Murrayfield. And now they're doing Argentina in Dublin. So I guess it's just a bit, I'd get a bit more money or a bit of a warm-up game. But interestingly, for all of the talk about the Lions is supposedly supposed to be the best rugby team in the world, the best of the best, Argentina in round one are going to be the highest ranked team the Lions play on this tour. Argentina are ranked fifth in the world, which is higher than three of the four nations that make up the Lions, and higher, much higher than obviously the Wallabies or any of the Super Rugby teams or invitational teams that the Lions will be playing. So this is technically, on paper, theoretically, the hardest game the Lions are going to play is before they even leave the Northern Hemisphere.
This is actually a warm-up game for the Argentinians.
It is, I think it is actually. People, Lions fans are very complacent about this game, very complacent about this game, thinking it's going to be a walkover. I'm not sure it is. Back in 2005, it was a 25-all draw.
Yeah, you sent me the team. Now, I didn't really look at it in that much detail. What is it like, the Argentinian team?
So they haven't got any of the players who are playing in the top 14 playoffs. So there's no Juan Cruz Malia, there's no Santiago Chocobares, one or two others, but they've got uh, what's his name, Julian Montoya. He's playing. They've got Thomas Albanos. They've got Santi Carreras. They've got Cinti. So anyone who's English based, they've got, and they're giving a lot of debuts to Super Rugby Americas. So if people remember the Jaguares back in Super Rugby days, they obviously left Super Rugby and they dropped down to play in Super Rugby Americas. And initially, they played it as the Argentina 15, and then they've been splitting into more and more teams. So there was two teams over the last couple of years, two Argentinian teams in Super Rugby Americas. Super Rugby Americas is much like Super Rugby Pacific. It's a cross-border. It's a bit like the URC, but in America. So, or just South America now. There used to be a US-based team, and there isn't anymore. So there's a team from Uruguay. The team from Uruguay, Peñarol, is the best team in it. And then they've got a team from Chile, a team from Paraguay. And as of next season, I think the plan is to have 4 Argentinian teams in it. So that's where Argentinian players are coming from now. And they've got, I think, 10 or 11 players from that competition in the squad. And I think there's only maybe half a dozen have actually made the match day 23 to play the Lions. But it's exciting. It's a new wave of Los Pumas.
The one thing I did notice was that centre pairing for the Lions. I mean, somebody said somewhere, please, man, these people have kids at home. It's going to be awesome. Bundy Aki and Sione Toi Peluto. Was that correct?
Tuipulotu, yes.
Yeah.
Interestingly, they're playing Aki at 12 and Tuipulotu at 13, where Aki is much more experienced at test level playing 13. So that's interesting. They also played Mario Toji and Ty Burn the wrong way round. So Mario Toji has played all of his minutes at 4, but Ty Burn has played all of his minutes at 5. And in this game, they've numbered them the other way around. I don't know whether that's just mind games or what, whether they'll actually play in their normal positions. It's just the numbers are the wrong way around. But for whatever reason, Andy Farrell has chosen to do that.
Well, it says 4, yeah. Mario Toji 4 and Ty Burn 5.
Oh, that's not on the official one that I've seen.
The one you sent me just now from Tide 5 Rugby.
Yeah, they make their own graphics, so maybe they've just assumed because the official Lions account put 4 and 5 the other way around.
Interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. Okay. But we'll talk about that a bit more when we get closer to it. Like I said, there's absolutely no fuzz or no hype about it. Yes, the Lions tour. But I suppose once we get into it and Australia the game starts ramping up a bit, we're going to get a bit more interested. But we're not here to talk about the Lions, or only about the Lions. We're here to talk about what happened. The blowout in Dublin. The disaster in Dublin, let's call it that. The Blue Bulls just sank without a trace. I always like hearing your point of view because you're so much closer to the action up there. You know what's going on. What happened, do you think?
Well, Leinster peaked in this game. It's funny that the hardest game they had in the playoff run-in was the Scarlets. No one would have said that. They just peaked in this game. They turned up for it. I think when they got that first scrum, obviously they built up in their heads that was going to be a moment, that was going to be the winning of the game. I don't know whether the Bulls were a bit complacent about the scrum battle or what, but they won it fair and square. There was no hinging. There was no wheeling. They went forward and they won the hits as much as there is a hit anymore. And they won it. And from there, they just kind of had the ascendancy. And, you could say that Geordie Barrett's try was a bit of a breakaway, a bit of a try from nothing, as much as a try can be from nothing. And once they went 19-0 up in a final, you can just kick the ball and you can just say, you have the ball in your half and see what you can do with it from there. And the Bulls' phase attack, I thought, relapsed into where it was earlier in the season in not being very good, to be honest. They seemed to be, every time the Bulls got the ball, like one out from the ruck, the player would stop and wait for the hit. I don't know whether that was some kind of plan to try and disarm Leinster's blitz, is to just try and ride that tackle, but it didn't work. If that was the plan, it completely failed. And yeah, just in phase play, I would say that the Bulls were on top they obviously went 19-0 down, and then from kind of 30 minutes to 50 minutes, the Bulls were on top and had the better of the game, had the more territory, had the more possession, didn't trouble the scoreboard.
No.
So that's really disappointing. So I think it's just a disappointing performance from the Bulls. If they hadn't been disappointing, would they still have lost? Yeah, maybe. But I think the nature of the defeat was disappointing. And from a Leinster point of view, they've delivered on their potential, which is all you can ask any team to do. And you have to say fair play to them. They were clearly the best team in the league all season, and they deserve the title.
I wanted to ask you again from a South African point of view. We talked to Marco Mazzotti today, the owner of the Sharks. We talked about the Champions Cup and the URC. To South African teams, the Champions Cup is sort of it's not that important. The URC is sort of the ultimate prize, which I know for now, we're obviously going to change it in the future. But for Leinster and the European clubs, the Champions Champions Cup is the ultimate prize. They didn't make it there. Is the URC sort of a consolation prize? Did they really decide to go for it? And is it worth the while? Did they sort of appease their fans that were so disappointed with that loss against Northampton Saints?
Yes, it is a consolation prize for Leinster. I would say it goes club by club in Europe. Some clubs are really into the Champions Cup and some aren't. Munster, for example, are all about the Champions Cup as well. So, yes, it is a bit of a consolation prize for them, but they had to win it. There was a lot of pressure on them to win it. They couldn't go another season trophyless. And I do think the URC has more credit to it than, say, the Pro 14, which immediately preceded, where Leinster won 4 in a row. I think the URC is seen as above that. So, yes, it is a consolation prize, but I don't think it's fair to say that they're not bothered. I think losing it, not winning it, has hurt them, and I think there's a big amount of relief that they have now won it.
Now, a team that did not get any relief, this is actually the Bulls, and Jake White as the coach didn't get any relief. 3 out of 4 finals. I mean, that says something about the man. And I mean, there's a lot of calls for his head to roll now. The typical.
It's actually 4 out of 5, because you actually got to the Rainbow Cup final against Benetton
Oh,
and
yeah,
lost
you're
that
right.
as well.
No, I didn't realize that counted as part of it. Okay, 4 out of 5. That says something. I mean, no other team was able to do that at all. Yes, we didn't maybe win those finals, but the point is we were in those finals. And to win any tournament, you have to be in the final firstly. Do you think that, what does it tell you about Jake and the Bulls? And we'll get to how to fix the Bulls just now. But, as a whole, is it fair to call for Jake's head right now?
I don't know if it's fair to call for his head, but I think it's fair to say that they need to change something. And to be fair, Jake said this himself after the final last year. He said, I make a lot of finals and don't win many. And it's happened again. So if he did change anything, it didn't work. I think, like I said, it was surprising how they didn't have a plan that worked against Leinster. You always think of Jake as the man with a plan, and I don't understand why he didn't in this game. So about getting to the finals, have the Bulls overperformed in getting to those finals? Yeah, probably. So do the Bulls have the second best squad in the URC? Maybe not. Definitely top 5. Probably definitely top 4. But top 2, maybe not. So you'd say to always be the second best team. He has overperformed a little bit, but then you can't get to 4 finals and not win any of them. So you need to be careful. I guess the answer is, if you're going to get rid of Jake, you better have someone who is definitely better.
Oh, well, I'm against getting rid of Jake. I'll put it on the record. I'll say it again. But no doubt about it, he's a guy who will get us there. He's been there before. He knows how to win. You just said he's not the second best team, but consistently they're in the final, which means he's a good coach. We posted an interview the other day with Tony Brown. Spoke to Ben Herring, a friend in Australia, called Coaching Culture. And he said, you coach the players you have. And if whatever, however much Jake said he need better players, he still managed to get these players that he does have into a final for the 4th time out of 5 times. And he started with a pretty young, inexperienced squad, remember. And that, to me, that paints a picture of a good coach.
I think so. I think it would be wrong to say that Jake is anything other than a really good coach. But fans will be tired of losing. And also, I think fans are a little bit tired of it's always the same thing that he says after the games and stuff. And, I don't necessarily fully agree. But, if the same things keep happening and he keeps blaming the same reasons, then maybe it's true.
I think to a degree, Jake is his own worst enemy, because he's about the only coach that I know that every single week publishes a press conference before and after the game. And he's always there and he always speaks his mind. Inevitably, he's going to repeat himself to a degree, but it's one of the very few coaches that does that I can see on a regular basis. Anyway, let's leave that there. You asked me in my state of total despair on Sunday, identify 3 players that I think that we are a bit short on that might be a bit of a weak point for the Bulls. And you'll come up with some transfer solutions, because now you mentioned to me now suddenly it's the transfer season, not suddenly, after the end of the seasons, it's transfer season in Europe. So Owen Farrell went back to Saracens from Racing 92. It looks like tail between his legs a little bit. So you asked me those 3 positions and I, scratched my head and I came up with fly off, what did I say? Fly off, inside center, and open side flank, number 6, as sort of potential weak points maybe for us. And who did you come up with as solutions for us?
Yeah, so this was a bit of fun, and I've actually really enjoyed doing it. Is that Jake always says about, oh, we need to bring Springboks back, or his thing after the last final was we need to bring international players back. So he referred to Geordie Barrett from Leinster
Mm.
as the player that everyone's talking about, and he's their foreign signing. So South Africa needs foreign signings. I think that would be really cool if South Africa got foreign signings. So, like you said, I tasked you to give me three positions where the Bulls need to make a signing, and I'll come up with three options. So just to like talk about what I've done here. So I've come up in my three options in three categories. I've got a player from another South African franchise that you can sign. I've got a South African playing abroad who you can bring back, and I've got a foreigner. Now, with the foreigners, what I did was I didn't just be like, oh yeah, you should just sign Anton Dupont or whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah.
I tried to be realistic. So in order to do that, I thought, okay, well, where can South Africa actually sign players from abroad from? So you're not signing Irish players unless you're signing someone who's got no hope of playing for Ireland, in which case, is that the kind of level of player that you're looking for? You're not English players, same reason. Jack Willis is kind of the big standout, maybe Dave Ribbons as well. Standout players who are playing outside of England who are still good enough to play for England. You're probably not getting any French players. French players technically can be picked if they're playing outside France. Look at Rabah Slimani at Leinster, but they're not. You're probably not going to get them. Kiwis, you can get Kiwis. Obviously, like the Welsh and the Irish and the Scottish teams sign Kiwis all the time. And actually, I think it would be interesting. Maybe you can just enlighten me on this as a bit of an aside. We know that there's South Africans living all over the world. Is there like an exiles program in South Africa of people with a South African granny living in New Zealand or something? Because it doesn't seem to be anything that ever happens.
Well, we've never had to have it. We have so many players. We have too many players. We just spoke to Louis Kuhn last night, former Springbok fly-off. He's in charge of the junior programs at SA Rugby. And he says, like, he started with 1,500 players, and they start identifying them at under 15 level to top 200 players at school levels. And by the time they get to their final year at school, it's down to 30. So we never had a problem getting talent, and we never had to look for talent overseas on the senior level. So yeah, I don't think there's such a
Yeah.
requirement if you ask me. I don't
So
know.
yeah,
I don't think so.
so the problems with getting players from abroad to come to South Africa is three. One is the nations who don't pick players who play outside their country. That's number one. Number two is the South African economy isn't as strong as countries in Europe, which is a shame. And it means that when South African players go up to Europe, they earn relatively mega bucks compared to what they would down in South Africa, and they can bring that money back and do a lot more with it. And then thirdly, it's a big lifestyle change going from somewhere like Dublin or London or Paris to go down and live in Pretoria. That's a big change to your lifestyle, which maybe some Europeans might be a bit naive to. I don't know. Maybe you can come on that. Maybe I'm being unfair, but it's something that maybe not everyone might be prepared for.
It depends what you're talking about. If you're talking about the weather, talking about the climate, not a chance. I mean, that's the best. This is the best climate in the world, despite my jackets saying otherwise. But it's that time of the year. It's winter after all. The problem is it's more a question of maybe crime, being more careful where you go. Don't go certain places after hours. I can't. I live 800 meters from Loftus, and I can't walk there. I have to drive there, kind of a thing, because it's not safe. That is the typical concern. Pretoria is not the same as Cape Town. Cape Town is typically, I think, a bit safer in general. I'm generalizing. Definitely odd spots in Cape Town as well, in problem areas. But I think the idea of a rugby tourist in South Africa, I think the third point that you mentioned will probably be an attractive one rather than the one that scares them off a little bit. Dublin in winter compared to Pretoria in winter, or Dublin in summer for that matter, compared to Pretoria in winter. I said to you jokingly when we started talking, it's probably the same temperature now in Pretoria, and I'm all bundled up, and you sitting there with short sleeves. We're probably running at more or less the same temperature. We're not. we low 20s, I think, if I'm not mistaken. You're higher 20s. I mean, for you it's heat wave, and for us it's a cold front.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. And I defer to you on that, mate. You're probably right. Particularly, I've looked at pictures of like Stellenbosch and stuff and gone, oh, I'd love to go and spend some time there and things. So
I sent them to you to make you jealous, yes, and it worked.
I know it's place by place. It's place by place. I know, but it's a factor for that might put some players off. But anyway, so I thought, okay, so what are players from around the world where those issues aren't a factor? And the two main ones that I came up with are Fiji and Argentina. So Fiji's kind of the main one. Is I don't really understand why South African teams don't sign more Fijians. Like they would fit with your style of play. I think most Fijian players, particularly at the Bulls, would fit right in with that system. Obviously, big physical men, but with lots of offloading, running skills as well. And I looked, and according to a website called Numbeo, numbeo.com, which looks at cost of living around the world. And I found that the cost of living, according to this website, and it's very highly generalized, I completely recognize that there's different regions in countries. Even in a country as small as Britain, the cost of living in London compared to someone in the countryside up north is massively different. But according to this website, the cost of living per month in South Africa is 1,576 Great British pounds. And the cost of living on average in Fiji is 1,586 pounds. So quite similar. So that tells me that you could be able to get Fijian players over. Now, Argentina is a bit more expensive. It's 1,800 and something. But still, pro rugby player salaries. Could you get Argentinian players? So that's a very long and lengthy way of explaining what I've done. So the foreign players that I'll be mentioning in this, because I want it to be realistic and because I want it to add value to the conversation, are Fijians and Argentinians. So starting off with fly half. Now, obviously, everyone's thinking, hang on a minute, you've just signed Andre Pollard. So do you want to explain why you asked me to find a fly half?
Because he's not going to play that much. He's a Springbok. And Johan Goosen, I think, was one of the main problems last Saturday. He was basically out on his feet. He was very tender, very ginger, didn't want to take contact, went to ground quite easily. So if Andre is not playing, Keegan Johannes is your backup, with Goosen sort of maybe your second backup. I'm worried about the depth in that position. That's why I identified that. I think Keegan Johannes is an exciting prospect at fly-off. I think they unearthed a bit of a gem there. But if Andre is not going to play a lot of the time, for example, the entire November, when they're overseas, they're not playing USC then either. But the point is, they still they have to have rest periods because he's a Springbok, all those 8 weeks and this and that and the other. Andre's not going to play all the time like we want him to. So we have to have a backup plan. That's why I'm saying that.
Okay, so that made fly half very tricky because it needs to be someone who's going to come in knowing they're not first choice, basically. So here's the options, cutting to the chase, finally. So my option to bring in from elsewhere in South Africa, I've gone for Vusi Moyo, Moyo. Do you know this guy?
Moyo? No, never heard of him. Who's he play for?
He's currently registered with the Sharks. He's 19 years old, and he was the out half for the Baby Box in the TRC just gone. So he's been playing. I'm not sure which school he plays for. I know what a lot of our listeners and watchers will want to know what school he plays for. I'm sorry, I don't know. But he's 5'10". He's a beefy boy, though. If you look at him, clips of him playing, he's not small. He's got some size to him. He's a big 5'10". And like I said, he looks like he was playing very well for the South Africa under-20s. So a lot of hype for him. I've seen people saying he's clearly the best fly half at schools level in South Africa. So he's currently with the Sharks. He's 19. So he's a risk. He's one for the future. But he's someone who's got talent and would probably be fine playing behind Andre Pollard and Goosen if Goosen is sticking around. So that's option number one. Okay, so my second option, the option for a player who's South African playing abroad you can bring home, is a player who I know you know is Tinas Tabia. Was with Cardiff, is now with the Dragons. Does he see the rest of his career being played at the Dragons? I wouldn't like to assume, but you'd think that if the Bulls came knocking, he would be okay with going back. So he's obviously played with the Pumas and the Griquas, but he's been on the books of the Bulls before.
Yes, he has, yeah.
So I think a lot of Cardiff fans would say that he's had a bum deal at Cardiff. He's maybe better than some of the 10s that they've been choosing to play over him. And I think he's just a good option. I think he's a very solid 10 in terms of being your backup guy. I think he'd be great for you. And then my foreigner to bring in. So this is obscure. You won't have heard of this guy. So it's an Argentinian. He's called Juan Bautista Baronio. And he plays in Super Rugby Americas. He was the top scorer in Super Rugby Americas this season. I think he scored 60 more points than any other player. He has played under 20s for Argentina internationally. He's 21 years old. He's 6'2", So he's a big guy. So that he's kind of more similar to Pollard in terms of physicality. So I just thought that that might be an interesting one. You could also have a bonus of, oh, so the bonus that I came up with is not Argentinian or Fijian. He is currently a free agent. He's just been released by Cast. Is Luka Mutkava, who is the Georgian international fly half. So when you guys play Georgia this summer, have a look at him.
I will.
So those are my three options, though, is Vusi Moyo, Tinas De Beer, and Juan Bautista Baronio. So out of those, which ones do you like the sound of the best?
Can I just throw a name into that there that I know will make a lot of Victorians smile very widely, but apparently he's now on the way to Alice Park. Chris Smith, that went to Oyonnax. Jake let him go. People loved him here, and they felt that he was getting a bit of a bum deal. If I had to make a choice, I would say bring Chris Smith back, but he's not on your menu. I think if I had to choose from those names, I'll probably go for the Argentinian. I know Tinas De Beer was maybe thought of to be a bit small for the Bulls kind of a rugby, from what I understood. I think Vusi Moyo might be a bit young. I know Yuri Mattia, for example, that played for Western Province, still plays for Western Province. He's sort of behind Marnie and Sasha at Fly. He'll probably play for the Currie Cup again. I know he was in talks with the Bulls at one stage as well. Big guy, physical guy. I was actually quite surprised how tall he was when I saw him at Loftus. But if I had to choose from those three, I'd probably go for that Argentinian guy. That sounds like quite a prospect.
Cool, that's exciting. I'll send you the link after this. There's a rugby paper have done a really cool article on the Argentinian players who are picked from Super Rugby Americas for the Lions squad. Some really interesting players in there, including a scrum half. And I know you said scrum half is maybe another area they need to look at. But anyway, moving on to inside centre. Now, this was a challenge. Inside centre was difficult. If you wanted a 13, 13's for days. I could find you any 13 that you want. Inside centre's rare, very rare. So in terms of getting one from South Africa, the only one that I found, and you can tell me whether you like it or not, is Dan du Plessis from the Stormers.
No, thank you. Move along.
You don't like that one?
No, we just ran all over him. I mean, remember that. No, I'm sorry. He's one of the Plessis' son, for Michael du Plessis, one of the two du Plessis brothers' sons. I mean, I get confused with the names. Okay, but sorry, I interrupted you.
Marius Lowe is the other option. His stats were nowhere near as good as Dan du Plessis.
No.
So that's kind of it from inside South Africa, assuming you're not getting Andre Esterhuizen off the Sharks or something. Lorenzo Julius is a name I know that Harry said, but he's a 13 currently. Could he play 12? Maybe.
Yeah, he can, but I think he's a 13. And I think I heard today that Rassie is considering Yves de Hoeke as a 13 as well. And we had him as a 12. We had him as a 12.
Okay, so that's inside South Africa, slim pickings. Outside South Africa, obvious name, Rohan Janse van Zyl. Plays for Bordeaux in the top 14, European Cup winner. I know I've heard people say that he looked like he was finished at the Sharks. He's been fantastic for Bordeaux this season.
That makes no sense to me. I know.
He's a 65% dominant carry rate. He's got 71% gain line success, and he's got over 100 carries. So a lot of guys that you see with these high percentages of gain line dominance and things like that he's got 70% gain line success, 71% drawing two tacklers. You normally only get stats that high if you've not done that many carries, but he's got over 100 carries. He's in a very exclusive club. It's only really Joshua Tuisova, who is like an all-time legend in the top 14, who's got better carry stats than him. And Tuisova's been playing at 13, whereas Van Rensburg is playing at 12. Physicality for days. And I know you were saying that he wasn't that great for the Sharks, but I tell you what, for Bordeaux, he's been absolutely incredible.
No, but that's the thing. He's a great player. I mean, he came back to South Africa to play for the Sharks, if I remember correctly, and then didn't shape up in the Sharks, I suppose, structure, whatever you want to call it. And now he goes overseas and he shoots the lights out. That says something about the Sharks more than it does about him, I would think.
I think so.
I like that one. I like that option.
That's bringing the South African back. And then the foreigner, I've gone for a Fijian with a bonus pick to come. But the Fijian that I've gone for is Inia Tabuva. Apologies if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I probably am. Plays for the Fijian Drua. He's 6'1". He's 22 years old, 101 kilograms. He's got 58 gain line success, and this is his USP. He's got 8 breakdown steals, which is very unusual for an inside centre. Although you're playing in a league with Timothy Tavatavanawa, who is also an incredible player and would look very good at the Bulls. But I think he might be a bit above your price point. But Inia Tabuva, living in Fiji, playing in Fiji, like I said, 6'1", 101 kilograms. Bonus picks if you want an Argentinian. Picardo is playing 12 for Argentina against the Lions on Friday. A Super Rugby Americas player, 105 kilograms. He's got 6 tries in Super Rugby Americas this season, so he's a good shout. And then you've also got Valdisto Sanchez, I think his name is. He's 6'2", and he's played for Argentina under-20s. So there's 2 bonus options there. But I think out of any of those, the most proven is Tabuva from the Drua. So there's your 3 options. Am I sensing that you're leaning towards Van Rensburg?
I like that one. I mean, that guy's got legs, for three trunks for legs. I forgot the word there, but and I can see him fitting into the Bulls pattern. It's just that physicality. But I like that Fijian Druan guy as well. I mean, the Fijian Drua, they played well this year. They did well. No, I like that one. I like that one as well. Something to consider. But you talked about price points now. That's quite an interesting thing that we have to consider. You talked about all the other just matter of interest, cost of living in the other countries. What's the cost of living in South Africa? Did you see that? Did you find it?
Yeah, it's 1,570 Great British pounds per month. Now, I'm fully cognizant of the fact that the cost of living in Cape Town compared to the cost of living somewhere in the Free State is probably very different. But that's what this website said. So that's what I'm going off.
All right. Okay. I like that Fijian guy there. Yeah, if I don't go for Rohan. Okay. I think Rohan is not going to come back again. I think he's now had his South African excursion. He wants to stay overseas, earn the big bucks. He's doing well. He's making a name for himself. I think he's quite happy to stay overseas.
It's interesting that he's not in Razzie's alignment camp.
Yeah, no,
considering how well he's been playing.
That's interesting, eh? A couple of players that played well that weren't in that alignment camp or aren't in that alignment camp. Yeah, but that's a story for another day.
Okay, so, and then open side. So, finally, so then inside South Africa from another franchise, I've gone for JC Pretorius from the Lions. So he's got 91% tackle success, 70% gain line success, 36% tackle evasion, which is very impressive. He's got a background playing sevens, and he's got 24% turnover effectiveness at defensive rucks, which is very good. You don't see much more than 25% by any player in the world. So that's that one. JC Pretorius from the Lions. What do you think of that one?
No, I like that one. We discussed him when we talked about the open side flanks for the Springboks as well. He was a bit of a dark horse. He was our dark horse selection for Springbok 6. So yeah, definitely good choice.
Then for bringing a player back, look, this was difficult. There's not many South African open sides playing abroad that I could think of. You've got Jared Taylor is playing at the Scarlets, former Western Province boy. I understand that he was very highly thought of, but he chose to prioritize his education over his rugby career. So he's at the Scarlets at the moment. The rumors are that he might become available. He's not played very much for the Scarlets, but he was just, me being a Scarlets fan, first one that's kind of sprang to mind. He's very quick, very fast. I've also a very obscure one, Tian Jacobs. He's played number 8 for the South African Baby Box. So he's very young. He's currently, again, on the books at Bordeaux. He's playing for the Bordeaux Espoirs. I think he's 21 years old. He is 6'4". So he's maybe a bit big for what you think of a traditional open side to be, but he has been playing open side for UBB Espoirs. He's got 3 top 14 appearances. So he's just a big kid, obviously. South Africa under-20s player. He's played 8. He's played blindside and open side, so he's kind of not maybe a specialist, but like I said, it's very slim pickings. And then the other one, and this is a cheat, is Henko Venter is currently a free agent from Glasgow. He's been released by Glasgow. Now he's not an open side, but my kind of suggestion is play Henko Venter at 8 and move Cameron Hanekom to open side.
Oh, Harry will applaud you there, big time. Harry's been calling for that for a while now. That's interesting because Henko has to leave Glasgow now because of the new Scottish rules. Is that what it was? What exactly was
That's
the
right.
reason?
They've been told that they need more Scottish players in their team. So Henko he's made it clear that he didn't want to leave, and he's been told that he has to. So yeah, I think Hanekom obviously is the best pilfer of the ball at the Bulls, and I think that maybe with he's got a hamstring injury, and sometimes hamstring injuries are the hamstring isn't the problem, something else. And maybe if Hanekom lost a bit of upper body mass, that would help his hamstrings. And like I said, I think he'd be very well suited to playing open side.
Harry's been saying the exact opposite. He needs to gain about 5 kilograms. He said he's too
To
light.
play 8, though, he doesn't need to gain the kilograms to play 6.
Yeah, true. That is true. Didn't think of that. There's an interesting discussion at the moment because the Springbok's website says he weighs 110 kilograms, and the Bulls and everyone else says he weighs 104 kilograms. So, which way is he going now? Is he too light or is he too heavy? We don't know. We can't trust the sources.
And maybe he was wearing his shoes whilst he was getting weighed by the Springboks.
Yeah, or something like a kit bag or something. There's another player that's overseas that I'm not sure if he's open side or blind side. Marava Olifi. I think he's in Japan at the moment. Played
Oh,
for the
no, I
Bulls
don't know him.
last
I
year.
didn't check very much about Japan. It's very difficult to find information about Japanese players, so that I haven't got any Japanese-based players in here. I've also assumed that they're on decent money in Japan, so maybe not be realistic.
Well, I thought Marava Olifi Pacific last year was one of the best players. He got some awards, the Bulls Awards night. I can't remember what it was for. And I asked him, and he said something along the lines he wants to go there for 3 years or so to earn some money, and he wants to come back to the Bulls. Yeah, that's quite an interesting one. I like.
Okay.
Let me choose one of those.
Wait, I haven't given you my foreign pick.
Ooh, I'm sorry. Yeah, let me hear.
So the foreign pick is another Fijian, Kiti Salawa. So this is a very exciting player. Plays for the Drua again. He scored a hat trick on his Fiji Test debut. This is an open side. Very quick. Look, he's a Fijian, natural footballer. He's got 70% gain line success and he's very evasive. He's just a good player. He's going to be taking over from Levani Botia in that Fijian team. I think he's going to play for Fiji for a lot of years. And his stats are good. I think he passes the eye test every day. He's young. So that's my kind of nomination. I think he's going to be a big star of the future. And then a bonus pick, players who are allowed to play anywhere in the world and are not paid very much in their home country. Wales churns out open side flankers for fun. So if you fancied signing an open side flanker from Wales, you'd be spoiled for choice. Maybe someone like Thomas Young is a bit on the old side, but I think he would work really well for the Bulls. He's a very good in broken play, very, very good at the breakdown. He's won top breakdown steals in the URC, I think a couple of seasons. Currently, he played for Cardiff last season, he's moved to the Dragons next season, so he might be temptable to go down to Pretoria. But like I said, you just need to wait for the next one to come along. Probably affordable, can still be picked for their national team. So if you wanted a Welsh open side, I can recommend shopping here.
I'm going to tell you who I think the Bulls number 6 should be. And unfortunately, he's already at the Bulls. Nama Kaba.
I don't know. Has he played very much?
Yeah, he hasn't played much. He came from the Stormers, where he was sort of seen as a successor to Dion Fourie. And then the Bulls tempted him away, and he hasn't had much time to play. And he played against the Dragons, and he was man of the match. He played exceptionally well. He's so quick, well-spoken, highly educated, very clever player. I hope he gets more chance to play this coming year. Honestly, I think he's probably the star in that bubbling under. I think he's going to play Currie Cup a lot now. And I think that's where he's going to, sort of establish his himself, and then he'll be coming into the URC. I think for 6, we shouldn't go looking outside of the Bulls. We've got it right there. Don't look for someone else. Pick Nama
You
Kaba.
gave me these picks. You said that you wanted me to go shopping
No,
for
I
you.
did. But I mean, those are the weak points. I was actually agitating for Nama to be picked for the final. And we saw Marcel and Marco running into each other because we were not used to playing with each other in those positions. If they put Nama there, Marco at 6, Marco at 8, and Marcel at 6, for example, that would have worked better, I think, the other way
So
around.
you wouldn't rather go for JC Pretorius?
JC Pretorius, I think, is a bit light for the Bulls. That's
But
what
7 is
people-
the one you can get away with being light.
6.
6, sorry, yes.
No, but still, he still has to bring his, do his bit in the scrums and the like. One of the things that we talked about, I think, if I remember correctly, when we rated him, was he was a bit light. He's very fast, very quick, very good with his hands. But, yeah, Yeah, I think the Bulls have got the answer. Thanks for your suggestions, but I'll politely decline.
Okay, then. It was
Thanks.
hard to find
I can imagine.
foreign-based open sides. Like the exact, I've gone for the academy teams of French teams to be able to find one.
Mm. So much work is that for you? You offered. No, I didn't ask you. You offered.
Yeah, it was fun. It was
Yeah, I
fun.
can
I know
imagine.
it was going to get all exciting with Springbok chat and things now, but yeah, this was a fun bit of research to go and do. So probably do. I was going to say we could do them for every South African franchise. You could do it for the Stormers. There's probably no point doing it for the Sharks because where are the Sharks lacking
Yeah.
in terms of the squad and the Lions? I mean, how far do you have to go to find someone the Lions can afford? Sorry,
Yeah,
Lions fans.
that's true. Yeah, we actually talked about that. I think when you talk about the Sharks, you don't change the players, change the coaches. That's my feeling. Stormers might be a good exercise. Harry would like to hear your views on that. That's going to be a good one. Let's do that. I'll ask him what he thinks, or you ask him. Let's see
I
what he says.
messaged Harry about Fijian players, and he was like, "Yes, very in favour of
Yeah,
Fijians coming to play in South
he
Africa."
is. We must get you on the Lekker Rugby Pod, man. Me and Harry, we do this discussion for the Stormers. I love it.
Okay.
Can I say something? I met
Go on.
Kolisi today.
Oh yes, I saw you took a photo.
Yeah, man. And I met Lode Jager, I met Eben Etzebeth. For the first time, I actually attended the Springbok press conference. What an experience. Tell you what, now, Siya Kolisi is like a human dynamo. The guy never sits still. He's just buzzing. I don't know how to explain it. The energy coming off that guy is incredible. I was actually
I'd
overawed.
love to if I could ask Razzie if I could ask Razzie questions, I'd ask him millions about everything. But I always got the impression with Warren Gatland picking Sam Warburton as Wales captain, was he was not just picking like the best guy to be captain on the field, he was picking the best guy to be captain off the field. And I don't think there's any question that Siya Kolisi is the best option for South Africa as captain off the field.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at what the guy's done for this country in terms of cohesion and everything else. No, there's no doubt about it. But I just never knew he was such a nice guy. It's funny. The press conference started with Siya, Rassie, and Felix Jones, a matter of interest. And when they finished, Eben Etzebeth came in. So who sat between the journalists and asked the first question of Eben Etzebeth? Siya Kolisi. Hey, Eben, how's it going? How are you doing? No, good. Next question. It's quite funny. I like the way they interacted, joking around with each other. It was quite fun.
I saw that. I saw them talking about when the journalist asked Siya, "Are you going to play 8?" And
in Koza.
Siya looks at Razzie, and Razzie just goes, "I just hope he gets picked at all."
Yes, Rassie is a good guy. Actually, is a funny guy. I was actually a bit nervous with Rassie there, with our little Lekker Rugby Pod episode. I thought he was going to nail me because he has a habit of taking journalists on in a press conference that he's not too happy with. And I sat right in front of him. Right in front of him. So that was a bit of a nerve-wracking moment. What an experience, I tell you. Sure, it was good. So next time I'm going to ask you, what questions can I ask Rassie? It's a good question to prepare a bit better. Yeah, let me know. See what I can do.
Okay.
That'll be lekker. Anyway, just talk to me quickly about Red Bull buying a rugby club. What's that about?
Oh, this could change everything. This could change absolutely everything. So Red Bull, I'm assuming everybody's heard of Red Bull, have bought, I don't know if it's officially confirmed yet, but it's like known that they have bought Newcastle Falcons. So Newcastle Falcons, actually, was doing some research on them, so I'll just tell you now. Newcastle Falcons are, in my opinion, the worst rugby team in professional rugby. They are terrible. Now, it wasn't always like this. So, pop trivia question for you. The team that Johnny Wilkinson, arguably the greatest English rugby player who ever lived, spent most of his club career playing for was Newcastle Falcons. So there you go. He won the Premiership with them back in the 90s and then didn't win anything more at club level until he went to Toulon in the 2010s. But anyway, Newcastle Falcons, like if you look up all their stats, like dominant carries, fifth bottom, game line success, bottom. This is out of the 4 main leagues, out of top 14, Premiership, URC, Super Rugby.
Oh, sure.
Out of all of those, tackle success, third bottom, meters per game, more meters per game, third bottom, 22 entries, fourth bottom. Like they won 2 games this season. They won 0 games last season. They concede more tries per game than the Dragons. They have a worse points difference than the Dragons, same number of games played. They played the Dragons and lost at home. You have to look at like Anthem in the MLR, which is a brand new team that's an academy team, to find someone who wins fewer games. Or the Cobras in Super Rugby Americas, which is the Brazilian team in Super Rugby Americas, has worse. But even Newcastle have worse stats than that. And they've been on sale for the last 2 years. The owner has said, I'm not happy to keep spending the money on this. It's not worth it. And the other Premiership teams agreed to loan them money. So the other teams in the league loaned them money to stop them going under, because if the Premiership went down to 9 teams, it's no longer viable. So they had the other 3 teams that went bust, but with Newcastle, they kept them afloat, because if Newcastle went under, the whole league went under. And now Red Bull have come in and said that they would buy them. So for people, I assume everyone's aware. I know that you're aware because of Formula One. They've won however many world championships in Formula One. When Red Bull go into sports, they take it seriously and they generally do well. We know they sponsor lots of extreme sports. They've sponsored world rally teams, Formula One teams. They've got into football more recently. They own Red Bull Salzburg in Austria or Germany. Don't test me, I can't remember. And the point is that the money that Red Bull spends on things like Formula One and things like football, if they spent a fraction of that, they could dominate club rugby, absolutely dominate it. So like the stat that I pulled out is they sold a player to Barcelona last summer for 55 million euros. Just one player. If they spent that 55 million euros on one season in rugby, they would be the second richest rugby team in the world after Toulouse. That's how nothing money it would be for Red Bull to make Newcastle Falcons the biggest team in rugby, like in terms of spending power. So it's just crazy. This could change absolutely everything. It could take what is, and I say it again, I think the worst professional rugby team in the world into the biggest rugby team in the world in terms of spending power, and they could do it ridiculously quickly. It could be 3 seasons. So, this is a story to watch for sure.
Okay. You sent me another interesting WhatsApp the other night, and you said, you're so tired of this Johan van Graan hype. And we're all thinking, geez, Johan van Graan is shooting the lights out, Challenge Cup winner, Premiership winner, was so far ahead on the league, in the league on points and everything else. Why would you say it's hype? Isn't there any substance to it?
So I just think that people have gotten a bit carried away. Do I think that Johan van Graan is a good coach? Yes, I'm not arguing that. Do I think that Bath are clearly the best team in the English Premiership? Yes, I'm not arguing that. I do think that it's being brushed over that Bath are also the top spenders in the Premiership. Like all of the leagues this season have been topped by the biggest spenders, Leinster, Toulouse, and Bath. And that's the spending thing is something that gets thrown at Leinster a lot. It gets thrown at Toulouse a bit. And during the season, it was thrown at Bath as well. And then as soon as they won the title, everyone stopped. So I'm like, well, hang on a second. This is a problem for other people. Why is it not a problem for Bath? Like I say, they're clearly the best team in the Premiership. So he's clearly maximising the potential of that squad. But I just think it's funny that people stop talking about that. And then in the UK, people are talking about Bath doing the treble, and it's getting on my nerves. So the treble that they've done is they won the Premiership. Cool, fine. They won the Premiership Cup, which you might not have even heard of down in South Africa. So the Premiership Cup is a development competition where the academy teams of the Premiership teams and some Championship teams play against each other, and it's a cup format. So I'll read you the teams that Bath beat to win the Premiership Cup. Bedford Blues, Amped Hill. Now they're Championship teams. They lost to Bristol in the pool stage. They then beat Harlequins in the quarterfinals. They then beat Newcastle, who I've just spoken about, in the semi-finals, and then they beat Exeter in the finals. Exeter, you don't understand. Awful. It puts into context how bad Newcastle must be for Exeter to be the second worst team in the Premiership. Exeter were terrible this year, absolutely diabolical, and they beat them in the final. So the highest ranked team that they beat to win the Premiership Cup was Harlequins, who was 7th in the English Premiership. So there's the context for that. And then for the Challenge Cup, it's something that I've said before. The only reason they won the Challenge Cup is because they completely stuffed up the Champions Cup because they got kicked out of the Champions Cup in the pool stage. They lost to La Rochelle. They lost to Benetton. So La Rochelle 7th in the top 14. Benetton 10th in the URC. They beat Claremont, fair enough, 5th in the top 14. And then they lost to Leinster heavily in Dublin. They got smashed. And then on their run to win the Challenge Cup, they beat Po away. And I can tell you for a fact, Po, who are 8th in the top 14, put out a B side for that team. They then beat Gloucester, who finished 5th in the Premiership. They then beat Edinburgh, who finished 7th in the URC. And then they then beat Lyon, who finished 11th in the top 14. And that's how they won their European title. They were by a long way the best team in the Challenge Cup, and they probably shouldn't have been in it. They should have gotten out of their pool in the Champions Cup. They should have beaten La Rochelle at home, and they probably should have beaten Benetton away. So the reason that they won the Challenge Cup is because they messed up these other fixtures. So their record in Europe this season reads played 7, won 4, and they won a trophy. So I just want everyone to calm down about Johan van Graan, because you've got all of English media praising him. You've got all of South African media praising him because he's South African. And then you've got some sections of Ireland praising him because he used to coach Munster. So I just want everyone to chill out about what Bath have achieved. Are they a good team? Yes. Are they clearly the best team in England? Yes. Has Johan van Graan done an objectively good job? Yes. But he's just the flavour of the month. We had exactly the same thing with Franco Smith last season. And in my opinion, I'm more impressed with what Franco Smith has done than what Johan van Graan has done. So let's just calm down on calling him the next Springbok coach for the time being.
Well, on that subject, there was a bit of a storm in a teacup. Some New Zealander, can't remember the name now, saying that the Chiefs and the Crusaders would just demolish Bath and some other English team. I can't remember who the other one was. I think Saints.
I agree. I think they would.
I was wondering whether that's any merit to it, and clearly there is, yeah.
I think Chiefs and Crusaders would beat Bath. I think they're clearly better. I think, look, Bath got beaten heavily by Leinster, and the team they beat in the final, Leicester Tigers, got 80 points put on them by Toulouse.
Yeah.
So I think it's fair to say that I think that the Crusaders and the Chiefs, particularly the Chiefs, who I've been very impressed with this season, would beat Bath. I think that's fair to say.
What I'm going to do next week, when we talk again, the Springbok team would have been announced for the Barbarians probably, because they announce teams typically on Tuesday. And I'm not sure if they're going to do it again this year, but they typically do. I'm not sure who the Barbarians are going to pick, and it's going to be coached by Robbie Deans. I'd like to pick your brains about that game next week. That'll be interesting.
Cool. Let's do that.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Thank you. I enjoyed it, as usual. That's good fun.
Rugby with Huw Griffin